All right, Dennis, thank you for being here with me today.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, we're going to talk about uncommon paths so that we can inspire young leaders who might be interested in running their own business someday and also potentially getting into the blue economy.
Awesome.
Great. So I'd love to hear if you could just start by telling me a little bit about BioLargo and what your company does.
Well, we're an innovator and solution provider. The company's a little over 10 years old, and it really started when I met this inventor with these brilliant ideas. He'd spent a lifetime studying nature and looked at nature and the way it handled certain contaminant issues. And he started this journey of sort of discovery, right? And so when we met, he described a vision that he believed would be high impact to make life better. And that's our slogan, make life better. So for about a little over a decade, we've been developing technologies that really set out to tackle some of the biggest challenges that the world faces for clean air, clean water, advanced wound care, and then environmental engineering. So it's a diverse portfolio built on intellectual property that is based on science and engineering, tackling some big challenges. So that's what we do.
Those are some big challenges.
I love, as I say, we live right on the edge of innovation.
Yeah. And
you have to be really comfortable there because, as we say, our success is the journey of 1,000 failures.
Yeah.
So it's pretty gutty, actually.
You're actually looking to nature to inspire some of the designs that you're doing?
Yeah, nature will show you the way, right? And
Absolutely.
so you just have to look very carefully and think out of the box a little bit. And I don't really take credit for that myself.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that sort of figures out how to work with all these bright minds.
Great.
So I have a whole team of engineers and scientists. We started with one inventor, now we have a whole crew. And so I get to really work with some of the smartest people in industry and set out to do something that we think is very important, right? So it's worthy. Yeah. Worthy of that extreme risk and dedication and time and energy. And I've got about half my career invested here at BioLargo now. So yeah, it's a worthy undertaking.
You look pretty passionate about it.
We love it, yeah.
Yeah,
it's meaningful work, right?
Absolutely. So I'd be curious to hear a little bit, how did you get to where you are today? Did you always think you would do this type of work?
It's funny you asked that. My parents were entrepreneurs, so that helps a lot.
Great.
My mom was an educator. My dad was in the sales business.
Yeah.
And that's a big start. That helps a lot. People don't realize. So that culture of sort of, yeah, you can do this. Yeah. It's an empowering culture.
Absolutely.
Right?
There's a little bit of tolerance around risk, it sounds like, or...
Yeah, and sort of, as my mom would say, honey, we got your back. And so that sort of endorsement, it's like this this backstop to take risks that other people aren't sometimes able or willing to do. And when you look at doing this for 20 plus years, it's an extraordinary risk. It's not for the faint of heart.
Absolutely not.
Right. And so, yeah, I always sort of envisioned myself in that role at some level. And then through the corporate journey, you learn a lot. You learn what you like, what you don't like. You look at how people establish a culture, how they're going to operate, the ethos, the vision of what they're doing and why. And so as a young entrepreneur, you really long for the chance to set out and put your fingerprints on that stamp. Yeah. So this is the first company that I've really had the chance to do that.
Amazing.
And that's good and bad. You pay the price for that, right? So you start out, when we started the business, there was 3 of us. And again, we met this inventor, and we set out on this really ambitious course. And if you'd said to me it was going to take, 10 plus years to get to where we are, I'm not sure you'd have done it. I mean, it's just so difficult because innovation is is really thinking differently and finding that edge and deciding, we can do this. And what you realize through the journey is the significant challenge of overcoming all these hurdles, right? Whether it's competitive, capital, regulatory barrier, financial barriers. I mean, they're endless. Yeah. They're endless. Yeah. So I think the thing that is the glue that binds is the meaning of it all, right?
Is that what keeps you going when you come up against
it's worthy.
Yeah.
We're going to make life better.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness. I had a meeting last week, and they said, "Holy cow, make life better!" Right? It's this, and how do you get your head around that, right? And the answer really is it's one thing at a time, and then you add it up over years. And next thing you know, you've made life better for a lot of people. Yeah. So we think that's worthy.
Absolutely, it's a big vision.
It's a big vision. It's high risk. It's high reward. And so what we've done over the years is diversify. We've found little wins. As I say, part of our journey is that overcoming that 1,000 failures. but really being able to set aside what we call incremental innovation versus disruptive. And so our thesis is we focus on disruptive only. And disruptive to me means high impact first. It's worthy, right? It's going to make life better. And so we say clean air, clean water, advanced wound care, these really high, lofty goals. And they're very real. The science is real.
Yeah.
The journey through commercial adoption and monetizing these assets is incredibly difficult. But when you exit, you're in multi-billion-dollar markets, you're a disruptor with a technical innovation, and you're coming against incumbents that don't innovate this way, right? So
You've
at
got
the
the edge.
end, well, you do. At the end, the science is not going to fail you, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur from a pretty young age, it sounds
I know,
like.
it's so funny. My dad used to set me out in his little red wagon and walk the neighborhood full of samples selling to the neighbors. I was about 4 years old.
Wow, that is a young age to start.
So by the time you get a real career going, I remember when I was 16, I had an interview, and I pulled out my first real job, right? And where I'm going to get a tax statement and all that. And the guy says, can you give me a resume? And I had like 13 jobs on there. I was 15 years old. And the guy says, what? And that's the culture though of what I grew up with.
Right.
So we did tons of things to learn how to be an entrepreneur. Not that you ever master it, but you whet your appetite and you have the itch. So then as you get older, right, you learn what you don't know.
Right.
You got to supplement that with experience, and mentors, I think, is a critical piece. But when you assemble that, and you've got that experience, and the confidence, and all those tools, and you got a backstop, it makes you pretty powerful. I mean, it's unstoppable. So.
Absolutely. So I'm kind of curious, thinking about, again, the topic here that we're trying to inspire young leaders. What would you say to somebody who would be interested in maybe running a business someday?
Well, I think the first is that you need to work on a backstop. What is that, right? Whether that's psychological or financial, whatever it is, you can't do it alone. And when you think you can, you're in trouble.
Okay, that's good advice.
Right? The second is ask yourself, what is it you're really here to do? Is it to create wealth? There's nothing wrong with that per se, but is wealth creation part of a pathway to impact? I think the priorities are really important. There's a lot of ways to make money. But making impact is really hard, and making money and making impact is even harder.
Yeah.
And so when if somebody says I want to be in the sustainable business, or I want to be an innovator on the cutting edge, that's what you're doing. You're going to try and do both because you need to make money. You got investors. It takes capital. It takes a lot of resource to get through the innovation cycle and the adoption cycle.
Yeah.
So what is it that makes you get up in the morning and get excited, and then gives you the compass to make decisions, hard decisions about yes and no and who and why and how you're going to act, right? So, I think it's really a self-inspection thing first, and then secondarily, do you have the backstop, psychological, financial? Because if you're on your own, it's tough. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just really hard. Yeah. Right? So those are two big ones. And then I think the third really is, of course, the passion of it all, but is who you surround yourself with. As they say, it's, you got to surround yourself with quality people who share that vision and share the character of how you're going to operate. It doesn't take much for one bad apple to spoil the batch, especially as an emerging tech or solution provider type company that really relies on integrity of its science, integrity of its commitment. So you have to be very careful, right?
Yeah.
So choose carefully. I always say, if you don't need those partners, don't bring them. If you do, you do. Yeah. Make that decision. But I think it's as we say, we're part of an American success story, a great American success story. It's unfolding. It's a decade or more of work, and we have an army of people that have helped us do it, whether it's investors or team members or collaborators. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And I think they gravitate to us because we share this vision of high impact that's really meaningful. So.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah. Thank you.